Have you ever stopped and wondered if life is just a bunch of random stuff that happens, or if there's maybe a grander design at play? Like a blueprint? Today, we're going to dive into a worldview where every big event, every calling you feel, and yeah, even every struggle is seen as part of a divine plan. It's all about the concept of being appointed. So let's get into it and see what that really means. The whole idea really gets its footing in scriptures just like this one. And you can see this isn't just a friendly suggestion, it's framed as a powerful declaration. It lays out this really stark choice. You're either appointed for one destiny or another. And according to this text, for believers, that appointment is for salvation, not for wrath or punishment. Now, the source material for this explainer, which was a sermon originally in Hindi, uses this incredible word to capture the idea, dhiraya. And it's a word that goes so much deeper than just appointed. It's got the weight of being destined, of being chosen, of being specifically set apart for a mission. This one word, dhiraya, is really our key to unlocking this whole way of thinking. Okay, so what does this divine blueprint actually look like? Well, it's not just about what happens to you or me. It's about a preordained timeline for, well, everything. Salvation, judgment, the whole sweep of history itself. Let's take a closer look at how this sort of cosmic calendar is believed to work. And this right here boils it down to the fundamental choice at the heart of the belief. The source really emphasizes that from this point of view, people are chosen for salvation and eternal life. This isn't something you just earn on the fly. It's a destiny that's been set in motion. And on the flip side, wrath and punishment are seen as the alternative appointment. This timeline really shows how these divine appointments are seen unfolding through all of history. The source points to these really specific moments in the past, like Sarah being told her son would be born at a precise, appointed time. And then it stretches all the way into the future, to an appointed day of final judgment for the entire world. It's all part of a divine schedule. Of course, this raises a huge question, right? If there's a divine blueprint, why does the world look so messy? Why do good and evil seem to be growing right next to each other all the time? Well, the source material tackles this head-on with a very famous parable. You've probably heard it, the parable of the wheat and the weeds. A master sows good seed, but then an enemy sneaks in and sows weeds. When the workers ask if they should just rip out all the weeds, the master says no, let them grow together. And the crucial takeaway here is that judgment and separation, well, that's not for us to handle right now. That is reserved for a future appointed time, the harvest. So how does this giant cosmic blueprint actually translate into someone's daily life? I mean, if you believe you're appointed, what are you actually supposed to do? The focus really shifts now from that grand timeline to a very personal sense of purpose. And this verse is absolutely central to answering that question. Being appointed isn't about just kicking back and waiting. It's presented as an active mission. The whole purpose of being chosen, according to this text, is to go and bear fruit, to live a productive life that actually has a meaningful impact. And that purpose often takes shape inside a community. The source points out that within the church, different people are appointed to different roles, and each person has their own unique gifts. It's kind of like building a team, right? Where every single person is playing a unique, divinely assigned part to help the whole thing work. So who gets these jobs? It's definitely not a lottery. The source stresses that these appointments are all based on character. God is looking for people who are faithful and wise. Just think of big figures like Moses or the Apostle Paul. They were seen as dependable, and so they were trusted with these massive responsibilities. Okay, so you have your appointed purpose. You're on your mission. But what happens when that purpose or the beliefs behind it get challenged by other people? What's the protocol then? The instruction here is crystal clear. You're appointed to be ready with an answer. But the how you give it is just as important as the what. The response has to be delivered with gentleness and respect. It's not about winning a debate. It's about explaining your hope in a way that honors both your faith and the person you're talking to. And now we get to what is maybe the most challenging, most paradoxical part of this whole doctrine. If people are appointed for a positive purpose, what about all the folks who seem to oppose it? And why is there so much suffering, even for the faithful? This is a deeply complex idea, and it's presented directly from the source. It's this concept that some people are actually appointed or destined to stumble and to disobey. So within this framework, even the rejection of the message is somehow seen as part of this bigger, often really mysterious, divine plan. And the ultimate example of this difficult idea is Judas. He wasn't some outsider who just went rogue. He was one of the chosen 12. From this theological point of view, he was appointed for his tragic role. His betrayal was a necessary, though absolutely terrible, part of the preordained story. So that brings us to the other side of the paradox. What about the suffering of the believers themselves? I mean, if they're chosen for salvation, why does their path so often involve intense hardship, opposition, and even death? This quote from the Apostle Paul is incredibly stark. He saw himself and other believers not as being protected from harm, but as sheep to be slaughtered. For someone with his worldview, suffering isn't a sign that the plan has gone wrong. It's an integral, appointed part of the journey. And that can give a profound sense of meaning, even in the middle of pain. This whole idea extends all the way to the very end of life. The source emphasizes that death itself is an appointment. It's a fixed event on the calendar for every single person. The timing, the manner, it's not seen as a random accident, but as part of the plan. And it's a perspective that for believers is meant to replace that fear of the unknown with a sense of divine purpose. So, to wrap this all up, the core tenets of being appointed are basically these. Life is not just a series of accidents, it's a purposeful story. Your service is a designated role, not just a random choice. Even suffering and opposition can have a preordained purpose. And for believers, the final, ultimate appointment is salvation. And that leaves us with a final, big question to think about. How does a worldview that's built on divine appointments actually change how a person sees their own choices, their response to hardship, and their very understanding of destiny? It's a framework that really redefines everything, from success to suffering, and it places all of it within a single, unfolding story.